All right. Well, seeing as how we're after 9 o'clock, we'll just get it started. So thanks everyone for joining our Open for Business session. I am Sarah Wilson, Uptown United's Program Manager for the CTA Lawrence to Bryn Mawr Modernization Project. As you're likely aware, the CTA has begun construction, which started with the closures of the Lawrence and Berwyn stations. So we'll be seeing disruption throughout this multi-year effort. But in the end, we'll have new modern stations at Lawrence, Argyle, Berwyn, and Bryn Mawr. So to help all of you throughout this project, CTA has created Open for Business, a free marketing program, which we will cover today. So to walk through our program and the application process are Felipe Ballestero and Lourdes Narvaez from the Purple Group. They help implement marketing efforts for the LBMM project. And before we get into the presentation, a couple quick housekeeping notes. Please remain mute. I think we're all very familiar with Zoom these days, so please just remain mute. And if you have any questions, feel free to just raise your hand and we will make sure we address your question. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Felipe.
Hey, Sarah, thank you so much. Excited to present, kind of give a general walkthrough of the Open for Business program. As you mentioned, I work with Purple Group, leading the marketing efforts and communication for the RPM project. And I also have Lourdes, who is the program manager. Lourdes, hey. But anyway, so we can get started. We can give you a general walkthrough. The best way to kind of, just get this started is really to sign up. So if you could go to the next slide, Lourdes. And I'll just say next slide as we go through it. So what is the Open for Business program for RPM? Unfortunately, as part of this massive construction project that the CTA is embarking on, right? It's going to be done in 3.5 years from now. It's going to impact a lot of communities along its route. So from Lawrence all the way north, so it's the Lawrence station, Argyle, Berwyn, and then Bryn Mawr. Specifically, just because there's going to be a lot of closures and street kind of impacts, and those corridors will be impacted. So the RPM team kind of asked us as a marketing firm to say, hey, could you develop something that can support businesses during this downtime? There will be street closures, there will be sidewalk closures. It's going to be a little gritty in a lot of these places. So having had that experience at the Wilson station, what else could have we done? And we developed this program in those kind of eyes, or that lens. As I mentioned, signing up for the program is really the first bit to start. I have the URL throughout the presentation and also this QR code for easy access, and that will get you step by step through the program. Cool, next slide. All right, so as part of the project, our biggest objective while construction is happening, while things are being impacted, is really to drive and increase the volume of business by foot and digital traffic to these business corridors. And I'll share the map of what that looks like in a little bit. The way we're looking to support that objective is through marketing campaigns. One, a registration campaign that its focus is to garner participation, right? You can't be supported through this project without signing up. But the second bit is general campaigns that go along seasonality and along the impact construction schedule. There's going to be certain areas where it's going to be more impacted than others at certain times throughout the next few years. So that we're keeping that in mind in order to promote businesses and organizations. So I'll get to that in a little second, not just businesses, and then of course partners. So chambers have been on board with this project and have been instrumental in helping us build and kind of roll this out. Cool, next slide. Okay, so in terms of our destinations, there are 4 major destination zones. So it's the Uptown community, Edgewater, Andersonville, and then Lakeview East. Lakeview East is part of the RPM project, but it's slightly different than the North, so we're trying to keep those kind of areas a little separate. In terms of the major program structure, we have the Shop, Eat, Play, Explore. Because of the diversity of those areas, it's really difficult to just hone in on one cultural element of it. So we wanted an umbrella kind of approach to try to get as much diversity into the project as possible from those vantage points. We really did take a tourism kind of mindset in it. With that said, next slide, Lourdes. The Open for Business program will roll out in a few phases. We're kind of in our initial kind of set, we were thinking like, oh, this is going to be a tourism kind of focused, destination marketing focused campaign or project, but then COVID hit. So we had to kind of turn and pivot a little bit in terms of what that means for supporting businesses. So all the way in 2020, we kind of switched to focusing on a registration campaign, getting businesses signed up. Phase 1 is going to focus on what is open now. Businesses are now opening up, so this might be even sooner than just 2021, but we're being mindful and making sure that those dates are according to the behaviors and patterns and the science, right, that is happening in our communities, to make sure that we're encouraging people to shop, eat, play, explore safely within the neighborhoods. This idea kind of was nascent on the idea that people are walking to their services, to their businesses, to their organizations that they generally support, instead of making pilgrimages across the state or the city, or even nation in some cases. So we're looking at that very closely, and we'll be monitoring and making pivots as needed. As it's safer to do so, we're thinking about expanding this into phase 2. So we're looking at 17 minutes outside of destination via car. So people through a kind of a tourism lens are going and supporting their businesses within a 17-minute radius of their home. So that's the general idea. And then once it's probably more of, just safer generally, we're looking at this to be a citywide approach. One, from an expanded audience, inviting people to shop, eat, play, explore while stations are closed. There's really only 2 stations that are permanent closed around the project, but they will have temporary stations nearby. And then at the very end, so phase 4, the coming back. So now the stations are brand new. We want people to come and support what has been built in the long term. So we're excited for that section as well. All right, next slide. So you may have received a lot of emails from construction teams or what they call CANs, the construction activity notices, literally printed or emailed. And you will read most likely this acronym called LBMM. What is LBMM? That's Lawrence to Bryn Mawr Modernization Project, so LBMM for short. And that encompasses those 3 neighborhoods, so Uptown, Edgewater, and Andersonville, kind of pictured to the right. We worked with the chambers to define the areas of where businesses or where this program can support. So looking at their own boundaries, but also making it proxemic to stations that will be impacted throughout the project. In terms of eligibility, you have to meet within those bounds. So from the south, I believe it's Leland, north is Devon, flanked naturally on the east by Lake Michigan, and then on the west by Clark Street. So as I mentioned earlier, it is going to be only small businesses, nonprofits, major attractions or entertainment venues that will be eligible to apply. And if you have a doubt that you might not be able to meet those criteria, we highly, highly suggest that you apply anyway, and we will work with you, review your application, making sure that you do or you do not. And if you do get denied based on any of these criteria, we will let you know exactly why. So we're trying to make it as black and white as possible, and getting as many people as we can within this project. In terms of your function, this is where it gets a little interesting. So we want to make sure that it meets or it does not violate the prohibited advertising content per CTA advertising policy. In essence, you can't sell firearms, you can't do just strictly like adult content or sell tobacco. So those are kind of the main kind of guiding principles, but we highly suggest you still apply if you think that you might not meet that, and we will review your main primary function within kind of our research. And we do this for every applicant. Or just let us know. Feel free to reach out to you, and we'll have our contact information at the very end. Cool. Next slide. So what will these campaigns do? So as a marketing team, our idea is to generate that foot traffic. That is our objective. again, to help encourage people to shop, eat, play within those community boundaries, right? So we're going to do that through traditional advertising. So as part of the CTA, this project will engender the support of basically a whole swath of CTA team in order to get in-station signage, community signage. So you'll probably already see fence banners, kind of also yard signs, but also in station. And eventually, once it makes sense, once numbers are back up on ridership within the red line and purple lines as well. So look out for that. Community newspapers will also be targeted along with social media and email marketing, a directory listing. So we have a consumer-facing website as part of this project that's going to be integrated into the CTA's website. So it goes along into this be seen mentality where we already have millions of people visiting us as part of this visiting the site. So we're going to be integrating that and hopefully driving traffic from CTA visitors to support businesses in the communities. Printed materials will also be a piece of it. So brochures, flyers, posters strung throughout. And then, of course, supported by chamber and partner aldermanic efforts and programs and projects. And finally, public relations. So as part of this, we have been given the go to also promote where it makes sense, both the program, but also participants themselves by sourcing quotes and potential interviews. So hoping to pitch that as well. All right, next slide. We have tried to make this program sign-up process as easy as possible. We have had some questions as far as working with, we're using this submittable kind of URL and platform to get people signed up. So the essence of that platform is that you can sign up multiple times, go revisit your information, make edits. Think of like a college application letter. So it's something like that, but in fewer steps. The general first application is about 5 to 10 minutes, and we'll go through what that means in a little second. There will be a review stage where someone on our team will review your application within 3 to 5 business days to make sure you meet the criteria. We will ask you, if you do meet it, to submit additional pieces, including a logo and images and a small description. And then that's it for the rest of the ongoing project. So we should probably update this slide a little bit, but it's giving you information and updates for the next 3 to 5 years. Well, at that time. So it's we've already kicked this off. That said, we do ask, and we will have periodic kind of surveys where we just want to make sure that you're seeing some impact, or if not, maybe it's kind of to inform our efforts and seeing how we can incorporate you even more within some of our marketing activities. And then that's it. So marketing campaigns will be ongoing. When we do have special events or special campaigns, we will work with you directly to kind of bring in the videographers, the photographers, whatever we need to make those campaigns real. And of course, all of this is free of charge, brought to you kind of by the CTA and city resources as much as possible. So we will also get into a little bit of a detail on images, which if you don't have business images, marketable business images, this project will be able to support those individuals. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So Lourdes, next slide. So again, just a quick little bit, hit that, I wish I could say like hit that subscriber button, but you can just hit this QR code and it'll direct you to the website where you can register. It will ask you to register for an account and then give us kind of your business information. Again, that initial application should not be more than 10 minutes, but if you do run into any issues, let us know and we'll work with you directly to get that finalized. Next slide, Lourdes. There is a second option in an application. It is a physical application. To get to it, you're going to have to download it and print it at transitchicago.com/RPM/open-for-business. While this is an option, it does make it a little bit more challenging in terms of digital files to be sent of your business. So we will work with you. If you can provide an email or a phone number, we will find a way to contact you to provide those alternative assets. Or if you don't have them, we can help you find one, or find a solution. So with that, Next slide, Lourdes. All right, so what will this application require? Basic business information, name, address, phone number, business owner, and best person to reach, so best point of contact information. This is important and crucial for us because we want to continue to inform you. Whoever's the decision maker, whoever's managing your marketing, may be that individual, so that best point person, that's the individual we're going to point to for any questions, for any additional assets. So if that's you, amazing. If that's somebody on your team, put them down, let them know that you're putting them down as well. That way it doesn't surprise them when they get emails or requests or even calls from us to get them going or to be a part of any ongoing campaigns. We will, as part of stage 2 of this application, it's going to be a small, unique business description. So who are you, right? In your own words, right? Yes, you may be a cafe, but do you specialize in vegan desserts? Those unique elements, and every business has something that's unique to them, is what we want to incorporate into some of our language. We ask you to not necessarily overdo it or overthink it. It's much more so of like what makes you interesting, what makes you happy, what makes your customers happy. What is it that is unique in your space? Be that the oldest in the neighborhood, or do you source your beans from Java Direct, or are you inspired by your grandfather's lost puppy? Something is interesting about your business, and we want to know. We will take that information, do our own research about your business or organization, and try to source marketable language that works in the same tone for the microsite and for social media. The other element that's very important to highlight is the best order now contact information. So in this case, everybody's on their phone, they're ordering or trying to engage your services through Yelp, through Google, but how do they reach you? That's going to be important in terms of a phone number, perhaps. Some people don't use a phone anymore, but if not that, then the best kind of Yelp page, landing page could be a social media to engage your business. So if you have an Etsy shop, for example, or it may be that you have like a delivery service like Grubhub and you want people to be directed to that. So we're going to ask you for 2 links, one for your main website and one for the best order now contact information, whatever that is. And if we don't have a secondary link or phone number, that's okay. We'll try to work with you to identify what that is or to confirm with you that the one that you did provide is indeed that one. So it could be just your general call information, and that will be the best way to do it. So we'll work with that. In terms of images, and I'll show you at the very end of the presentation, we are looking for images that are quote unquote marketable. So something that inspires people to take a bite, right? So that, or gives them a more atmospheric kind of sense of things, of what you do or what people do within your org to shop, eat, play, or explore. So we'll get into a few examples at the very end, but I'm going to take a little pause because I probably spoke a little bit much. And Sarah, if you can join me back and just go through this next slide in terms of FAQs.
Yeah.
Awesome. So as part of the FAQs, we did receive several kind of questions generally, and if you can throw them at me, Sarah, I think that'd be very helpful. And kind of
yes. So one of the ones that I've been hearing is, how frequently will my business be featured?
That's a great question. So we are in the process of developing a more formalized schedule in terms of feature. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, our big guiding light is about impacts. So when there's a corridor that is more impacted, we will try to focus them as much. That said, every business will have a microsite tile, right, where they will be featured. They will be promoted when it makes sense through social media. So we're building the schedule, and that's still due to kind of show up in terms of what that looks like from a printed asset as well. So some of those will be printed assets because we have a more like limited restricted budget on those pieces. We're aiming to focus those resources on more general business categories. So you may fall within that space. So there's a couple ways we measure that, making sure that there's enough flow and diversity of business types throughout the promotion. So it's kind of nebulous at this moment. It's hard to give you an exact number, but every business will for sure be marketed online throughout the project.
And then to follow up on that, Is there an opportunity for me as the business to review any of the marketing before it goes live?
In some cases, yes. For example, if we're working with you on campaigns, or if we're working with you on social media content, we might actually ask you for images, or kind of give you a heads up like, hey, this is coming. But in some cases, because there's just so many decision makers to review this, it's going to be important for us to have kind of the wiggle room in order for us to kind of move things forward. So we do ask that we reserve the right to using some of the images and some of the description texts throughout the length of the project. But on more like a heavy campaign work, we will work with you to make sure that you are okay and happy with them.
And then who will email me? Who will I be hearing from?
Yes, that's a good one. So Lourdes, hey Lourdes, she's going to be your point person throughout the project. You'll see her name, Lourdes Navarez, at purplegroup.com or purplegrp.com. You might see my name, or you might see the rpm@transitchicago.com email address hitting your inbox. We will also work with our partners in this project, so chambers and the aldermanic offices. So you may see things come from them directly. Sarah's a great liaison for a lot of the work, so keep an eye out for that as well.
And then most of the other ones are out here on the screen, particularly
Cool.
about photos. So what if I don't have photos?
So if you don't have photos, it's a great question. The RPM team has given us the go-ahead to establish photo shoots in the coming months to get businesses, one, registered, but also marketable. So we're looking to set up these kind of Photoshop ops where we can provide marketable images of your businesses or your services for the community to kind of get that atmospheric lens of what you have to offer.
And how do I take advantage of that?
So within the next few weeks, probably a month to be safe, we will be releasing kind of those next steps in terms of scheduling some of these events. So kind of in the process of building that out. We will formalize it where we'll identify certain dates and then either visit you at your business or either have it kind of in a centralized location to get some of those shots. We'll also have a photographer that goes into your spaces. I know COVID makes it a little bit of a challenge to do that, but it's the goal to try to kind of figure through some of that. We will have most likely a registration type of sign up. And of course, Lourdes will probably be working with you directly to make sure that everything is confirmed, that you have what you need day of, and we'll provide guidelines or instruction, I guess, creative instruction to seeing how we can better position your business or organization.
That's all I've got.
Awesome. Any other questions from anyone before I continue? Awesome. And I see Heather. Hey, Heather. Alrighty. So again, the biggest thing is to take that first step, sign up, open for business. So O4BP, that's submittable.com. It's also on the CTA RPM website. So next slide, Laura, sorry. And we'll get you through the project as best we can. Cool. Next slide, please. I'm going to go back to some of that question about images. So what are marketable images? The best way for me to say what it can be is like if somebody can feel what it's like to be there and enjoy themselves or to get the services they need in a friendly, added like space, that's the best image that we can probably hint at. What I like to say, this atmospheric space, so that could be showing food offerings, good lighting, that's important images, high resolution, that's a big one. If we can potentially work with your image, maybe modify it or edit it a little bit, we will. Of course, we're going to let you know if the image is proctored just slightly too much in order to make sure that it's okay by you. It's usually just hues that we play with just in case, just to give it a little bit more of a vibe, if that makes sense. We will ask that we use these images as part of the microsite and ongoing promotion on social media. And if we don't have one immediately through your application process, we might go to your social feeds if you have them and pull them and say, hey, do you have the rights for this image? We're also working with the chambers, so making sure they have kind of a directory of a lot of images And if we find one in there, we will reach out to you to say, hey, we want to use this image. Is this okay? And then go from there. The biggest thing is high resolution as best as possible. And then in the absence of one, again, we will work with you to find that best alternative, either taking one or finding some other source to get you going. Cool. And then I believe the last slide, Lourdes. How do you get us? Email is probably the best way. We are a team that monitors this email address, but Lourdes will be the primary contact person. So it's o4bp@purplegrp.com. With any questions, as mundane as they are, please let us know. Our goal is to make this process as easy as possible, but also just to inform you throughout the length of the project. This is going to be a long project. So as long as we have you in our system, we will make sure to address your questions or let you know with any changes. The application, o4bp.submittable.com. Project questions for the RPM project itself, which is a little different than just open for business. That's rpm@transitchicago.com. And that's someone from the CTA team directly monitoring that email address. Or look for more project information at transitchicago.com/RPM to get a better sense of construction and impacts. Cool. And with that, that's the presentation. I don't know if I spoke way too long, but
no, it's right on time. We're hitting up to the 9:30 mark, which is exactly where we wanted to be. So I wanted to thank you, Philippe and Lourdes, for joining us today and providing us the step-by-step instructions. And please feel free to reach out to them. Reach out to me at sarah@exploreuptown.org. We will be sending out this presentation afterwards so that you can always refer back to it. We know there can be a lot of questions that arise as you do the application process. So you can always refer back to this, and do not hesitate to contact us. So we thank you for joining us today, and we hope that you will register and take part of the free marketing campaign. So we thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.